Hi, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya for those of you that are new here, and I'm a watercolor and acrylic artist. So I wanted to do something fun today. I wanted to combine flowers and art. So I thought of putting a little bouquet of flowers on top of a paintbrush. So I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so to get started, I've got my watercolor paper. I have two generic paintbrushes, a size 6 and a size 3. I have a pencil and eraser. I have my Micron archival ink pen, a size 05. I'm going to be bringing a little bit of this in at the end of the painting. And then I've got my Arteza watercolor brush pens. It doesn't matter what color brush pen you have. I just have the Arteza on hand, and this is the one that I love using the most. So I'm going to be using these. And I'm going to let you know what color I'm using as I'm going along, just in case you wanted to follow along with me. Okay, so depending on what size paper you're working with, you're just going to kind of eyeball it where the middle of the page is, and maybe just go a little bit above that for your paintbrush. And then the rest of this we're going to leave for the flowers. So you just want to make sure that you're leaving enough room for the flowers. And you can do any shaped paintbrush you want. I'm just going to do a very generic paintbrush. And I'm going to maybe just thicken up the handle a little bit and bring it down to like an oval shape towards the bottom. You can do any handle you want. I'm just doing just a plain paintbrush just to make it easy. And then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of make a little line here and maybe a thicker line here, kind of with two little screws where it's like holding that little metal part that holds all the bristles to the paintbrush. So you just want to give it a little bit of some detail. That's all. So just, you don't even have to copy exactly what I'm doing. Just look at a paintbrush and just maybe copy that. There's just a little bit of detail in the metal work up here towards the top of it. All right, so then you're going to bring up your bristles. Oh, and then make sure that this metal part is just sticking out just a little bit past your paintbrush here, just so it's got a little dimension of just bumping out right here on the sides. All right, now you're going to bring up all your little bristles. And you don't have to draw them all out. You just want to kind of do the direction of which way you're going to be going. And you're going to start placing your flowers. So that's why we didn't go all the way up with the bristles. You're just going to start placing some flowers. Pick any flowers you want. I'm going to do maybe like a little rose, a little daisy, just very generic flowers. You could do whatever you want. You could do tulips. It doesn't really matter. Just watch the placing of your flowers though. You kind of want to spread them apart. So they're equally, like maybe, like I like odd numbers, you might like even numbers. So just kind of do whatever is pleasing to your eye. I'm going to do a little daisy down here, maybe a little daisy up here. And it's okay to overlap your flowers, totally fine. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start bringing out some greenery. So I'm going to do like maybe a stem with some leaves. And if you want to draw them all out, you can. If you want to save that part for your brush pen, you can do that as well. I'm just going to draw them out just to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to have one stem coming out there, and then just to balance it, maybe I'll have another one coming out here. Okay. And then maybe some greenery, maybe some bigger leaves coming out towards the top over here. Maybe another one this way. Then you could even do maybe some little berries if you want. I always love adding just little berries into my florals. Just gives it a little extra texture. And maybe another one sticking out over here. So you just be the judge of the placement of your flowers, what kind of flowers you're going to be drawing, what kind of leaves you're going to be drawing. So you just be the judge of that because everybody likes something different. So just make this how you like it. You do not have to copy exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just giving you an idea of how to create this. And then maybe I'll just have more like, I don't know, kind of like, almost like evergreen branches coming out here. All right, so that's all we're going to be drawing. Okay, so just make it very, very generic. So, all right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my greenery first. So like I said, I've got my Arteza watercolor brush pens here. I'm using a seaweed green if you're following along with me. If you have the Tombow or any other brand, don't worry about it. I've used a lot of different brands. I seem to always go back to the Arteza watercolor brush pen, but you can use whatever you have on hand. All right, so I'm just going to start kind of tracing in. I'm going to make that little stem and make these little leaves. I'm just outlining the leaves at this point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in more just towards the middle where all the leaves are coming together on that stem. I'm just going to kind of do like a little dot down there. So when I start putting my water on there, it will blend it out. I'm going to do the same thing with this stem over here with this greenery. Now, if you don't want to outline your leaves, you can go ahead and fill them in, but don't fill them in all the way. Just because you want, when you apply the water, there's going to be lights and darks of this watercolor, and you don't want the whole thing to be solid because then your painting is going to look really, really flat. So that's why I add just a little bit of watercolor to the middle, and then as I'm blending it out with my paintbrush and water, it just kind of creates the lights and the darks already for me. All right, so let's go ahead and apply a little bit of water on there. I'm using my size 3. If you don't have a size 3, you have a size 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just applying a little bit of water. I'm going to blend that in. So see, right now you're creating the lights and the darks of that leaf. If you had filled that leaf in all the way with your watercolor brush pen, you wouldn't have these lights. It would just be completely flat and dark. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of water to my other one. I'm going to let that dry because then I'm going to come in with another little color and add maybe a little bit more of a yellow or something in there just to brighten these up a little bit later. But I don't want to do that right now because I just applied the water, and if I put the watercolor brush pen on the wet leaf, it will not show up. You have to wait till your painting is dry. All right, I am going to use, let's do a couple of these roses here. This one's called Light Magenta. All right, and here again, I'm just going to be, since I did these little swirls, these little like wavy swirls here, I'm just going to kind of come in with my watercolor brush, and just with a broken up line, I'm just kind of pouncing my brush as I'm going along. So it's kind of a shaky line. I don't want a perfect circle, a perfect swirl. That just won't look as realistic. So I am bringing my brush, I'm pouncing my brush up and down as I'm going in a circle, just so it's kind of a broken up line. And I'm going to do all 3 of these flowers right here that I had created. All right, so see how I'm not filling it in all the way? Here again, I want lights and darks of that watercolor brush pen. And you can go in and make a couple more little lines if you want to, depending on how big you want your flower to be. All right. And it looks pretty just like that, but when you go ahead and add the water, again with my number 3 paintbrush, just a little water, I'm going on and I'm doing the same thing. I'm pouncing up and down with my paintbrush, and I'm going to leave some white in there because I want some highlights in there. So you're creating this light color right now with the water. The original marker, the original pen that you had laid down is the darkest, and then I'm leaving some white highlights in there as well. All right, so you've got 3 tones in there, light, medium, and, well, actually it's white, light, and dark. So you want to leave some of that white paper showing through. And if you don't have any of that white paper showing through, it's okay. Just go ahead and apply a little bit more marker of your watercolor brush pen, because then that's going to create the darkness. So if you don't have as much light, you want to create that light by adding more dark. Then that's going to make your lightest look even lighter, if that makes sense. So you're just going to want to keep layering it. All right, so that's all I'm going to do for those flowers. And let's go ahead and do our little daisy. I'm using, this is called Bumblebee Yellow, and I'm going to do just the center yellow. And I only did 2 of those flowers. All right, I'm not even going to apply water to that. I'm going to go ahead and add my other greenery. Let's see, what color is this? This is turtle green. And I'm going to do more of those like little evergreen branches that I had done before. You could do ferns, you could do whatever you want, any kind of greenery you like. And I did a few of those. Okay. And then when we're done with this, with our little bouquet here, you can go ahead and see if you want to add even more to it. Let's go ahead and apply a little bit of water to those too. Just a little bit, just to give it some lights and darks again. See how right away it's creating the light and the dark? You could have just gone ahead and just left it as the watercolor brush pen, but when you add water to it, it's just, I don't know. To me, I love that look of the lights and the darks. Then it looks more like a watercolor painting than it does just a drawing. I am going to do, let's see. I'm going to pick up that green again, the same one that we did first, that seaweed green, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of create these larger leaves that I had in the back here. Again, I'm leaving white so that I have a light and a dark. All right. So when you apply the water, look at that. Look how pretty. It just like comes to life. Okay. And then I added little berries here, and I pulled it's called Wine Red, and I'm just going to do little circles. And they don't have to be perfect little circles, because the watercolor brush pens, the Arteza brand at least, is more like a brush. You're not going to get a perfect circle. If you were using maybe the Tombow, those are a little bit more of a marker type of watercolor brush pen, whereas this is more a flexible tip. So you're not going to get a perfect circle, but with the other brand you might. But this is the brand that I'm using today. Besides, we're going to be going and putting some water over this anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then you can add a couple berries here and there. Maybe I want another little one up here. I didn't even draw that one before, but see how I'm saying, as you're starting to fill in your bouquet, you might just want to add a little bit more here and there anyways, even if you didn't draw it in at first. Okay. And then I see a little evergreen one that I forgot to do over here. So I'm going to fill that in. All right. Take a little bit of my water, and I'm still using my size 3 at this point. Wash off your brush when you're going to a different color. Otherwise, now that I just did that green, if I hadn't washed off my brush, I was going to bring the green up to this red wine berry little things that I did up here. You don't want that. So go ahead and rinse off your brush first. And then you can go ahead and dab these. I'm just dabbing it just to make it look more like watercolor than marker. And again, they're not perfect circles. All right, so let's work our way down and let's start filling in some of the bristles. I have got, let's see, which one is this? This one is called Elephant Gray. You can use any gray you want. I'm gonna flip my paintbrush upside down because it's easier when you pull towards you, at least for this part, when you're doing the lines. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, you know what? I'm going to do that first line here like that. And then I'm going to start pulling down all my bristles. Now you're going to want to leave some white space in between them. Go around your flowers. This is how you create those white flowers. This is how you create them. You're going around it with a different color and it automatically creates these white petals. All right, keep going, leaving white space. Fill in between some of your petals. Okay. And then you can even add a little bit up here if you want to, creating some of these petals. And actually another way I'm going to create those petals is I'm going to pull in, it's called Parma Gray. It's a very light gray. And I'm just going to kind of outline my daisy a little bit up here where there's no bristles and it's just white paper on white paper. Then I can't create that look that I got down here where it automatically creates these white petals. This doesn't have any of those bristles up here. So to create those, I'm going over with this light gray just to give it a little bit of shadow. And I'm going to just add a little bit down here as well, just so that they match. All right, let's turn this back around. Grab your paintbrush and just start filling in with some water. And just go in the same direction you did. There. So see how it's already creating these white petals right here. Really, really pretty. All right, we're gonna let our little bouquet dry and we're gonna go on to the actual paintbrush. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that gray again, that elephant gray that we had done for the bristles, And I'm gonna kind of just come in and outline where we got that metal part. Just do some of your detail. You don't want to fill it in, just do some detail. Maybe go around those two little screws that hold the metal to the brush. And you're gonna add a little bit of water to that and just let it create. You can leave some white space, but let it just automatically do its thing and create some lights and darks. Okay. And then you can make your handle any color you want. I think I'm going to do more of a purple. Let's see. This one's called Wisteria Purple. It's kind of a light purple. And you can do it solid if you want. I mean, obviously leave some white space, but I'm going to give mine some like some wood grain to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of outline my brush a little bit just to define it, show you where the sides are. And then I'm just going to do little ovals, kind of like wood grain. And if you're kind of confused at this part, just look up wood grain and you'll see that they've got all sorts of patterns in there. You can't do wrong. You could do straight, you could do ovals like I am, you could do side, diagonal, whatever you want. Just look up wood grain if you're a little confused on how to do the wood grain. I just did some really generic ovals here. All right, and then you could do as much wood grain as you want. So just go in and start filling in, maybe with some thinner little lines. And I'm going to bring in a different purple also. This one's the eggplant purple. And I'm just going to kind of go over some of my lines that I had just done, just to give it a little bit more dimension of lights and darks. So I've got two purples going on at the same time here, and I have not added water yet. Okay. And if you want to outline a little bit of your brush, you can, just to define it a little bit more. It could be a broken up line, leave some light showing, leave some dark showing. So I've got I outlined it here with the dark, and here I left a little bit of the light showing, and then I went back to the dark. So just play around with it how you like it. And then I'm going to bring in a little bit of purple right up here, just to give an edge to that. All right, now this time I'm going to be using my larger brush, my size 6. If you want to continue and use your small one, you definitely can. I'm going to start using my large one, and I'm just going to bring a little water, not a lot, but just a little water right over that brush. And see how it automatically creates all these tones of the two purples? So now I've got a lot of different tones in there because I did use, to begin with, 2 shades of purple. All right, I'm going to use, let's see, is this dry yet? Pretty dry. I'm going to come in with, it's called Night Sky Blue, and I just want to give a little bit more dimension to my bristles. So I'm going to use this. You can use any color you want. You can use black, dark gray, whatever. This one's just called Night Sky Blue, and it's more of a gray. And I'm going to bring in just a little bit more of those bristles showing here and there. You could do a little bit of the detail in your metal work again. I'm going to bring in a little bit more water. Start thickening up those bristles, maybe more towards the brush here, more towards the metal. Just thicken up those bristles a little bit more, maybe darken them up a little bit. There. All right, and then at this point, you can see if you need to add anything else. I think I want to add a little bit of yellow to some of my leaves. So this one's called Bumblebee Yellow. It's the same yellow that we did on the inside of the daisies. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of yellow right over some of my leaves because I just want to brighten this up a little bit. And now you're thinking, wait, yellow over green, is that even going to show up? Yes, it is. See how it's making some of my leaves a little bit more limey? It's just brightening up my bouquet a little bit. I'm just adding a little yellow here and there on top of my green. And then if you want to add a little more water, at this point you don't need to add more water, but I'm going to because I just want to blend those colors in a little bit more. Just like that. Looks really pretty. If you want to start bringing some of the, I'm not applying any more watercolor brush pen, but if you want to start just dragging some of the green out with just the paintbrush, you can start going over some of your leaves and dragging that paint out onto the white space here, just to create like an extra little shadow, an extra little dimension. And it also makes your bouquet just a little bit fuller. So I'm just bringing out a little bit of that green here and there. Really cute. All right, I think at this point I want to add a little bit more of that light purple down here, the lighter tone of the purple. I'm going to do just maybe one side of my paintbrush, so it's got kind of like a light side and a dark side, almost like the light is coming from this side. And this is the darker edge over here. Add a little water. Really, really pretty. Okay, so you can leave your painting just like this, but what I'm going to do when this completely dries, I'm going to add a little bit of my Micron Archival ink pen. You can use any size you want. I've got a 0.5 right here. And just make sure that your painting is nice and dry. Otherwise, sometimes this does bleed a little bit if your water is still, if your paper is still wet. And I'm just going over some of my flowers. I'm doing that broken up spiral line again, not a complete spiral. It's broken up. I'm pouncing my pen. So I've got a broken up, very shaky line for these flowers, these rose looking flowers. I'm going to maybe just outline a couple of my petals here on the daisies, just like that. And then you don't want to have to outline them completely, but just a little bit here and there. And then let's see if my leaves are dry. Yeah, my leaves are dry, so I'm just going to go over that stem and maybe just go over a couple of little petals here for the leaves. So this just gives it an extra little dimension. I love the look of watercolor and pen together. If you don't like that look and you just want watercolor, then skip this part. You do not need to do this part. And then if you want to go over maybe some of your berries, maybe you lost a little definition of some of your berries. I'm just kind of just going over some of those darker wine colors that I had done, and I'm just doing little circles. So it just gives a little bit more clarity to your painting, your watercolor painting, a little bit more detail when you add this pen. But like I said, you don't have to add it if that's not your thing. All right, I think I'm going to do a little bit of the bristles down here too. So I just did a little line here, and I'm going to do a couple of the little bristles going up. And then I'm going to do those two little screw things that hold your brush together. And maybe a little bit of the edge of your paintbrush. And then if you want to bring in a little bit of the pen on your grain, the wood grain, you could do that too. Just follow along with some of your wood grain. You don't want to make extra wood grain at this point. You just want to follow along with what is already there. All right. That is so cute. All right, so if you want to add a little splatter paint to the background, you can. If you want to do some designs in the background, you can. I think I'm going to leave my background just white because there's enough going on in my painting. But I do have this glitter paint that I have, and I know I've used this in several videos already. I have no idea where I got this from. It's called Tattered Angels Glimmer Glam Glitter Paint. I love this stuff, and I might actually see if they still make it. I'm not sure. I was given this a long time ago, and I don't know where they got it from. So just mix it up, and it just adds a little bit of shimmer. And I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it is really, really pretty. When you hold it in the light, there's sparkles on some of my flowers. So you maybe don't want to do your whole painting, but maybe just a couple of little leaves or petals. Even if you want to add a little bit down here on your brush. It just adds a little bit of glimmer to your painting. Let me see if you can see that. When I hold it in the light, I don't know if you can see that glimmer, but it is so, so pretty. So that was just a quick, simple, little, very creative and whimsical painting for spring. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you liked it and learned a little something. And if you did like it, please give me a thumbs up, and you can make a comment in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day. Bye.